Good morning. Today is April 9th, 2024. This is a regular meeting of the King County Board of Supervisors. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Joe Nevs.
Here.
Richard Valley.
Here.
Doug Verboon.
Here.
Rusty Robinson.
Here.
Richard Fagundes.
Okay, 5 members are present. We're ready to conduct business today. At this time, I don't believe the bishop is here, so we'll ask Carrie Martinez to please all rise for Carrie Martinez that she does our invocation.
Please bow your heads. Almighty God, thank you for all you've created for the people and all of the creation. We give you thanks for this gift. We invite you to engage with hope, joy, and love. Open our hearts and open our eyes to see our communities as you would have see them to us. In our name we pray. Amen.
Please follow me as we salute our nation's flag. Ready, salute. Flag of the United States of America. To the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all. Very good. Okay, at this time, we go to unscheduled appearances. Any person can address the board at this time on anything on the agenda or any other items of interest to the public. 2 minutes are allowed.
The first speaker is Ed Ryman.
Morning, Ed. How are you today? Good.
Chairman, members of the board, I'm Ed Ryman. I'm the president of Kings County Firefighters Association. I stand before you today very disappointed. Disappointed in the fact that as April 1st of this year, an entry-level employee at any fast food restaurant in the state is earning more per hour than an entry-level Kings County firefighter. An industry that does not face the same job-related dangers that we do and requires far less training and education. Disappointed that the Kings County firefighters have been working out a contract for 284 days with little to no sense of urgency by the county's negotiator to get the problem resolved and offer us any contract with competitive wages. I'm also extremely disappointed to report that in 5 days, Kings County Fire will have lost another of its highly trained firefighters to another fire department. The fire department that offers fair wages and adequate staffing. The loss of this individual marks the 24th firefighter to leave our agency in the last 3 years. It is simply unacceptable. For several months, we have listened to this board speak about the importance of retaining qualified employees, yet the contract proposals that we have been presented will show otherwise. In utilizing a current salary survey and not the outdated version the county is using, we have discovered that our membership is currently over 35% behind in pay as compared to other agencies in our area. Our members are asking for far less than that percentage over a 3-year time frame as opposed to 1-year catch-up. We feel our ask is extremely fair and have asked for less than 35% because we understand the county has to increase pay in other departments throughout the county. We are not asking to be the highest paid in the area or even close to the highest. We are simply asking for a respectable wage that puts us on par with comparable agencies. We as a union are tired of losing well-trained, extremely capable firefighters to other agencies. The loss of these employees causes safety risk to our members as well as to the citizens of Kings County. Those that leave the department take years of experience with them and are replaced with entry-level employees with minimal experience. Some who have left us and held the rank of captain, engineer, and have possessed several at this rate, and have possessed high-ranking positions throughout the agency and have left for entry-level positions at other agencies. We will continue to lose employees if our pay remains well below the industry standard. We remain hopeful that you as members of the board step up and protect public safety here in Kings County. Please urge your negotiator to offer us a fair contract that will help us retain these valuable employees and help us recruit well-qualified candidates. Thank you.
Thank you.
The next speaker is Raina Kane.
Rena. Good morning.
Good morning. My name is Raina Kane. My husband, Matt Kane, and I both started our careers as first responders in 2017. Him in Kings County here as a fire apparatus engineer and myself as at Tulare County Sheriff as a correctional deputy. Within a few years, as our family grew, only one of us could remain in our desired professions. I stepped back from my position to care for our family. Little did I know I would be caring for my spouse as well. Over his 7 years in the department, he has sustained significant injuries while providing service. Falling through a subfloor during a fire resulting in knee surgery, and pulling hose through an orchard on a tractor fire, resulting in back surgery with permanent lifelong nerve damage. However, those weren't the worst. On September 7th, 2022, in Stratford, he was sent to ventilate a roof on a working structure fire alone. That day was reported to be over 110 degrees. I remember calling him during that fire. He was completely out of breath, telling me that he was on a fire and that he had gotten too hot. He was barely able to speak, but at least he was able to tell me that he was okay. He barely was speak. He remained on shift where he would work another fire, resulting in even more heat exposure. After returning home, I saw he was more injured than he knew. After a lukewarm shower, he was pale, profusely sweating, shaking, and barely walking. The National Fire Protection Agency recommends 4 personnel per engine to operate safely. I later find out ventilating a roof requires a minimum of 2 firefighters. Staff on scene thought my husband would die that day. I humbly asked the board for adequate staffing. If 1 more firefighter were on each engine that day, he would not have been alone. Please do not send the chief to my door to tell me that my husband will never return home. My children should not have to grow up without their father because he was doing the job of 2 men. Thank you.
Thank you.
The next speaker is Chris Gutierrez.
Morning, Chris.
My name is Chris Gutierrez. I'm a former Kings County fireman of the county. I worked here for over 5 years. I was a topped-out step engineer with the county, and I was very familiar with you guys. I was part of many different initiatives and creating multiple donation possibilities within the county. I'm just speaking on behalf because I'm one of the 24 that left recently. I left to another department as a brand new firefighter. I decided to start my career all over again with the uncertainty of passing an academy at my age, 35 years old, and passing a probation at my age at an 18-month probation. So I left, but I was a made man here to a new department to start over. The reason why I left was pay. Being honest with you guys, when I got hired here at Kings County, I was able to purchase a home, afford to live here, but the pay raises never kept up. And I was at a crossroads where we had to cut back, and I had 2 children, and we just couldn't afford to live here any longer couldn't afford to work here any longer. And that was a big decision for me. So I left as a topped-out engineer here to become a brand new fireman at another location. Within that first year of me being a brand new fireman and going to a whole new academy, getting my butt handed to me on a day after day, when I was done with my year, I looked at my pay, and it was a substantial 30% increase in pay to start over. That was a big deal, just to have a 30% pay increase, as well as working. I think at that department, I worked 10 days of overtime total, compared to when I was at Kings County, when I worked 2,000 hours of overtime. I missed countless birthdays, events, baseball games for my kids, things that I would never get back. I realized that I wish I would have learned this a long time ago, when I was told that one of my senior drivers was telling me that working overtime, even though I felt that I needed to, because I needed to afford to put a roof over my head with everything, I didn't understand that I would be giving up all my memories I'd had with my children and my family. And to this day, I'm sure many of your guys' public safety here are forced to give up those memories that they will never get back with their family in order to put food on the table. I don't know many departments or many union organizations that bring $5.5 million to their department to provide money for the citizens in here. That is unheard of. That is crazy. And yeah, this department, these guys, they do it. You have some of the best working guys here within the public safety sector. And I believe that they should be recognized, so you stop losing them. I don't know the cost of what it is to recruit and train new personnel compared to losing somebody. And that should speak a lot, because you're not just losing guys, you're losing the experience they have here, the seniority, to replace with somebody that's either young, that doesn't know. There's things here that guys are going to teach that they learned the hard way. And with them being here, they stop the younger guys from making the same mistakes they did. So I just hope you guys make the right decision and help the public safety out, fire, sheriff, and everyone else in public safety, by helping them out so they're not end up like me, leaving to another place. Thank you.
Thank you.
The next speaker is Carolyn Least.
Morning, Carolyn.
Chairman, members of the board, Carolyn Least, Human Resources Director. I do want to say that the county has been in negotiations with the Fire Association since June of 2023. And since then, we have provided, in August 29th, 2023, we provided a sign-on, a recruitment and retention bonus of $10,000. The retention bonus was effective in September of 2023 and is through August 31st of 2025. This is paid at $192.31 per pay period for each employed firefighter. In addition, in October of 2023, they were also provided as part of a side letter as well for a half a day for the Christmas Eve. We are in discussion with the attorney for fire and a negotiator. We are open to mediation if necessary, and we are offering significant wage increases, which they have declined. Thank you.
Thank you.
The next speaker is Dolly Justin Silvera.
Morning.
Morning, Mr. Chairman and the board. Kings County firefighters continue to work out of contract because we are fighting for fairness and equality. The fire department has been grossly underfunded for ages. When you look at the fire department budget, the department budget pie chart, which encompasses all the departments within the county, you have to squint to see other places. You have to squint to see our place on the table. Several members of the public have reached out to us to ask, why are you so far behind? The reason why we're so far underfunded is due to the notion that we are some kind of special district. We have been sold the notion that we are primarily funded with a small percentage of property tax and supplemented by the general fund, when we are short. A public records request was submitted to the county in 2023 asking for clarification. If we are a district or a fire department. We received notice that we are not a district, but in fact a department. Our funding is like every other department in the county, and the laws that govern fire districts are clearly laid out with the state of California. Being locked out of the general fund has led to issues we are seeing today: recruitment and retention, decreased salary and compensation, and low staffing. You have the power today to end these shortcomings and adequately protect public we serve. Thank you.
Thank you.
That's all the speaker cards that I have, and it doesn't appear anyone online has their hand raised.
Anybody in the audience like to say anything right now? Good morning.
Emery Marple, good morning. I'm the CEO for the Hanford Chamber of Commerce. And since I'm here, I just wanted to take the time to give you a save the date. We did announce that we have our public safety appreciation coming up this July 12th. So we would love for you to attend. Also, any directors online or in the room, please check your email so you could submit your nomination for this year's department nominee. And we're also looking for an MC, and typically we use a board of supervisors. So if anybody is interested, please let me know. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anybody else like to come forward? Okay, well, thank you. We'll go ahead and move forward now to approval of the minutes, report out of closed session from regular meeting, April 2nd, 2024.
There's nothing to report today.
Thank you. Item B, approval of the minutes from regular meeting, April 2nd, 2024. Moved by Supervisor Robinson, second by Supervisor Fagundes. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Joe Nevs,
Yes.
Richard Valley.
Aye.
Doug Verboon.
Yes.
Rusty Robinson.
Yes.
Richard Fagundes.
Yes.
Five in favor, been approved. Move on now to the consent counter. All items listed on the consent counter listed as one motion. If you like one, you can pull it separately. Moved by Supervisor Fagundes, second by Supervisor Nevs. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Joe Nevs,
Yes.
Richard Valley. Doug Verboon.
Yes.
Rusty Robinson.
Yes.
Richard Fagundes.
Yes.
Okay, five in favor. Move on now to regular agenda items, and that will be administration. And we have chemical waste management. Bob Henry. Morning, Bob.
Morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the Kings County Board of Supervisors. Bob Henry, Senior District Manager for the Waste Management Kettleman Hills Facility. Report of activities, quarterly report of activities covers from January 9th through April 8th. I do have a few things this morning to talk about. Past activities on January 17th, KHF was at the San Joaquin Valley Air Pollution Control District in Fresno. KHF requested an interim variance for the construction of an ultra low NOx flare. We have an existing low NOx flare on site for MSW landfill to capture the landfill gas that's generated from the decomposition of the trash in landfills B17 and B19. It's a low NOx, but we have to put an ultra low NOx. San Joaquin Valley Air Pollution Control District approved KHF request for an interim variance from January 1, 2024 through February 21, 2024 until a regular variance could be heard. I'll talk a little bit more about it a little bit later, but we did get the interim variance. January 23rd, Kings County Environmental Health Services at KHF monthly unannounced facility inspection. This is for the MSW portion of the site. Landfills B17, B19, which operate as MSW, B18, where we have an NNISW permit, non-haz, non-putrescible industrial solid waste permit. So they came out and looked at all three. No violation, no area of concern during their inspection. January 24th, Department of Toxic Substances Control at KHF, annual unannounced comprehensive environmental inspection. It's a facility-wide inspection. It's where they bring in multiple people. Typically, it's multiple days. This time it was only for one day. They had several people there. They go through everything we have on site, drum pad, our treatment unit, landfills, things like that. During the inspection, no violations, no area of concern reported. Going into February, Kings County Environmental Health Services at KHF again, monthly unannounced inspection, no violation, no area of concern. February 16th, Kings County Fire Department at KHF, annual facility inspection. A few minor issues were observed, KHF to correct those issues. February 21st, KHF at the San Joaquin Valley Air Pollution Control District in Fresno. This is where we were seeking a regular variance sought to postpone compliance with applicable flare emission limits. This is from Rule 4311 until the installation and replacement of the existing flare is complete. So we recall this is where we were timely in our submittal for an authority to construct from the air district. It's like in July of 2023. We were then.
Hey, good morning.
We were to get a.
Doing well. So I don't know if you had heard, but
Just a moment.
Okay, so we were timely. We didn't get our authority to construct until December, I think it was 26th of 2023, and we had to have it up and running by January 1 of 2024. So there was no way possible to get it built. So during this regular variance that was sought, we sought it from go back to January 1st of 24 through September 25th of 24. The variance was approved by the board. So what we're doing right now is we have several projects, one of those being the flare project, the ultra low NOx flare project going on at the facility. We've put in the construction pads, the skin down equipment is arriving, and we're looking to get that hooked up in May and do the source test review later that month in May. Fun stuff. February 22nd, KHF Kettleman City Foundation Senior Luncheon. We were a sponsor for Valentine's Day theme. March, Kings County back out, the Environmental Health Services, monthly unannounced inspection. No violation or concern. March 21, back out at the Kettleman City Foundation Senior Luncheon. This one, we were the sponsor, and it was an Easter theme. April 3rd. DTSC, Department of Toxic Substances Control, completes their technical review of KHF's draft Part B permit renewal and issued a draft permit. Okay. We had an original permit that was issued in 2003. It was expiring in 2013. It was a 10-year permit. We were timely on a renewal application. 6 months before it expires, you had to submit a renewal application. We did that in 2013 to around 2015. DTSC was working on our landfill unit B18 vertical expansion, all phase 3. We were working with you guys on the EIR that was approved for B18 phase 3 expansion and B20 back in 2009. So you had a permit that was issued in 3. The Part B was, the EIR was approved in 2009 for the expansion, and B20, the next has landfill. 2013, the permit was set to expire. DTSC was still working on the permit. So they finished the permit. 2014, we opened up B18 phase 3 and 15. And since then, they've been continuing to do the technical review and work on our permit. Okay. It finally came to a point where the draft permit, the technical review was complete, and they've issued it. Next quarter, if there's no changes, what I'll do is I'll go over all the major changes that are occurring with the permit. It's going to be, just to give you a quick update, it's going to be it's quite a bit more strenuous than what we're doing right now. There's more groundwater wells, there are more gas wells that we're going to be putting in and things like that. So I'll go over a little more detail next time. But they've completed their technical review and issued a draft permit. And the permit will go through the public hearing process. Future activities, May 1st, annual community meeting. Meeting will start at 6 p.m. and will be a Zoom meeting. This is the one where every year we hold a meeting in Kettleman City. We'll talk about groundwater changes year over year. We'll talk about air monitoring changes year over year. Contingency plan review, hazardous waste transportation placards. It's a Zoom meeting this year versus an in-person. We had planned on doing in-person. It's a Zoom at the request of DTSC. Why? DTSC is going to be having 2 meetings here in May. So May 1st, we're going to have a Zoom for the Kettleman City meeting, our annual community meeting. May 9th, DTSC will be holding a public meeting in Kettleman City to cover the Part B permit renewal. So they didn't want to ask the community to come out on the 1st or have us ask the community to come out the 1st. And then DTSC is asking the community to come out on May 9th. It's going to be at the Kettleman City Elementary School cafeteria. And they're going to review how they made their decision on the Part B permit renewal. Then on May 15th, they're going to hold a public hearing / public hearing. So a week later, then what they will do is have any questions that community may have on the public meeting. And then they'll turn around and open up a public hearing. And that's where they'll take testimony from the community, anybody, on the new permit. And at that time, then we'll take the testimony. What will happen later is they will answer, I'll flip over. They're gonna answer any questions, and they won't do it that night, but they'll do it in writing. Okay, so it's a 90-day public comment period. So that started April 3rd. So April 3rd, technical review is complete, issue a draft permit. From the 3rd, they open the 90-day public comment period. May 9th, they have the meeting. May 15th, they're going to hold a public hearing. From that time until the end of the 90 days, anyone can submit comments on our Part B permit renewal. After that, if it's not extended, then what DTSC will do is they will have to answer every one of those questions. Now, if they have the same question over and over again or same comment, they may lump them together and just answer it once. But typically, if you have unique or individual questions, what will end up happening is they'll answer each one of those in writing. That time, which there's no time frame for when that may occur, we're thinking probably 4th quarter, they will then issue a final permit decision. and may say, Bob, you got to go back and you got to change this, this, and this, and maybe we're accepting it as is. We'll have to just wait and see. Okay, but they'll issue a final permit. Then my opposition, if I have. I haven't had a permit yet that hasn't been appealed in my 30 some odd years. So what we'll end up doing is, I'm assuming we'll have an appeal that will be heard by the Environmental Board of Safety, which is the new DTSC board, and then they will make a decision. So issue a final permit, 30 days to appeal. If anyone's going to appeal, the appeal will go to the Environmental Board of Safety, DTSC board, and then they will make a decision on it. Assuming sometime with all this timeline, the best I can come up with is late first quarter, early second quarter of 2025. We should have our 10-year operating permit. All right. Questions on that?
I just don't, it takes 10 years for the vertical expansion of B18. So in that 10 years, the people that inspect you have to change, right? Not the same inspector.
Oh, they change continuously.
So new ideas, new vision from each and every one of them.
Yeah.
You have to have patience to deal with it.
And you got to bring them all up to speed because most of the time they're fairly new to their positions.
Well, thank you.
And
I know we don't say it a lot, but it's a lot of work and a lot of, you got to clear your mind and you have to answer to them, and they change. It's not easy. So thank you again.
appreciate it.
Any
Anyone else?
questions from the board? Good?
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
We'll have to go out there and have a tour.
Actually, it's with landfill B19, just one of our first MSW landfill. We just closed it. We put the cap on, so we did all the earth moving, but part of the components was 3 feet of soil had to go over the entire landfill. So that work is, the soil's been placed and we're doing the down drains and things like that right now. The soil for the cover came from the construction of the next landfill unit. Landfill unit B17 is divided into 3 phases, A, B, and C. A and B have been built. Phase C is subdivided into 3. We're building phase C1 right now. We've moved we needed about 300,000 yards. To close B19, and then we moved about 800,000 yards already of soil to construct, or the close of B19 and then start construction of B17. B17, we're almost to grade with that 800,000 total being moved, and we're getting ready for liner installation. That'll be early May. So, and we're hoping to be in that unit in late June, early July of this year. So we'll be in B17 phase C1 a little bit midsummer. And then with B17, based on current volumes, that'll last us at least 40 years. So it's a pretty big one. So
You're going to be here in 40 years?
No. I was talking with someone this morning and it said, well, how long have you been doing this? I go, Joe and I started at the same time. So it's been a while. So B said, good news is B19 closed. All the landfills at the facility are closed other than B17, MSW, B18 hazardous waste. All the others have gone through closure and are what's called post-closure care. The B18, the hazardous unit's got about 10 years remaining. So right after we do the part B, we're going to turn and start working on B20 again. You all, I appreciate, approved the EIR back in 2009 for B20. And now we'll be working to get all the permits necessary. And there is about 9 permits you have to coordinate in order to get going on that. So that's the next permitting effort will be with.
I'll try to get a hold of you and come out 1st of May.
It'll be a good time. You get to see a lot of activity.
Right.
Okay. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I think we're probably going to say the same thing, Catherine and I. This is agendized for accepting the quarterly report, and so it would be appropriate for a motion and a vote to accept.
Moved by Supervisor Robinson, second by Supervisor Fagundes. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Joe Nevs.
Yes.
Richard Valley. Doug Verboon.
Yes.
Rusty Robinson.
Yes.
Richard Fagundes.
Yes.
Also, Mr. Chair, I think to thank Bob Henry and Waste Management for the flowers during Women's History
Thank you, Bob.
Thank you.
I didn't get any flowers.
Well, you.
I gave some out. I gave some out. I gave some out. Thank you. Yes, thank you
But
very much.
thank you for that continued support. Everything turned out extremely well. And the recipients were very, very, very pleased with that. So thank you.
Happy to do it for them. You're well deserving. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we'll move on now to item B, Human Service Agency, and good morning. Monica.
Yes. Good morning, Chairman and members of the board. My name is Monica Connor. I'm a Deputy Director for the Human Services Agency. I'm assigned to the Child Welfare Division. With me here today are members from the Child Abuse Prevention Coordinating Council, also known as CAPC. We're here to respectfully request for the board to adopt a resolution proclaiming the month of April 2024 as Child Abuse Prevention Awareness Month. April 1983 was first proclaimed Child Abuse Prevention Awareness Month by presidential proclamation. Since then, April has been a time to acknowledge the importance of families and communities working together to prevent child abuse. This is also a time to promote the social and emotional well-being of children and families. Last year in 2023, Kings County Child Welfare Hotline received approximately 2,252 reports of suspected child abuse. 1,421 of those reports resulted in investigations. And now I'm going to hand it off to CAPC Chair Emery Marple. She's going to report on the community awareness events.
Morning, Emery.
Good morning again. Okay, the Child Abuse Prevention Coordinating Council is sponsoring the following events in April to raise awareness for the community. We are doing Pinwheels for Prevention campaign. Pinwheels are a nation symbol for child abuse awareness and will be displayed around Kings County starting this week. Blue Ribbon campaign for National Child Abuse Prevention Month. A blue ribbon reserves as a reminder to fight for the protection of children. On April 27th, we will be celebrating our annual Kids Day at Longfield Center with free food, free events, and activities for families to provide information and awareness with regards to child abuse and neglect. And there will also be a balloon release to bring awareness to child abuse prevention. Blue balloons will honor and represent children that have been affected by child abuse. I'd also like to mention that within the last year, our CAPC has worked on numerous improvements, which include updating our bylaws, approving our new logo and website, creating work groups to reassess our current impact. And from that, we have started a new coalition with the emphasis on commercially exploited youth. Our new CEYC is gaining momentum, and we are solidifying a partnership with Kings County Office of Ed to bring education and awareness to law enforcement, parents, and educators all around our county by hopefully the end of the year. For more information on Child Abuse Awareness Month, the LISA Project, or new events and programs our CAPC is working on, we ask you to follow us on social media. In closing, adopting a resolution to proclaim the month of April 2024 as Child Abuse Prevention Awareness Month will provide an opportunity for the board to bring awareness and show support for children and families. We respectfully request the board to adopt a resolution proclaiming the month of April 2024 as Child Abuse Prevention and Awareness Month. After which, we'd also like to take the moment to grab a picture, and we have some blue pins, pinwheels to give you as well.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Want to stand up here and we get our pinwheels too?
Want to do the vote first? Make sure it passes.
Yeah, I was gonna say, can we get a formal motion?
So move, Mr. Chair.
Second.
By Supervisor Ness, second by Supervisor Valley. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Joe Nevs.
Yes.
Richard Valley.
Aye.
Doug Verboon.
Yes.
Rusty Robinson. Richard Fagundes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You just gotta be careful with Richard.
Yeah. Check with the probation officer, make sure you can have something sharp. Low.
You're good. You're good.
Got everybody?
You're good.
Need the wide angle, Loren? Good job. Thanks.
Okay, next item was coming from my IT department, John Devlin. Morning, John.
Morning, Chairman Verboen and fellow board members. What I have before you is the renewal of the three-year maintenance agreement for Microsoft Server software and Office 365. A little overview, back in June of 21, the county entered into a maintenance agreement for server and cloud product agreement with Microsoft for server and related server software. Furthermore, in May of 21, the county signed an initial three-year enterprise agreement for Office 365 user license subscriptions. Thus, the county needs to renew the maintenance for the next 3 years. Fiscal impact, the three-year enterprise agreement is just shy of 1.3 million. The first installment is 432,000, and it is included in our fiscal year 23-24 budget. Subsequent payments of the same 432,100 are included in the 24-25 year and will be requested in the 25-26 budget. The cost for the 3 years of server and cloud product agreement is 323,340, and it's similarly broken down into three equal payments of $107,780. Those costs are charged back to departments with our IT rates, and they were included in the current year and in the requested next year's budget. The recommendation is to approve the enterprise agreement with Microsoft to renew Office 365 user license subscriptions effective May 1st, 2024 through April 30, 2027. And I just noticed a mistake on this next line. Approve the server and cloud agreement with Microsoft for server and related server software maintenance effective June 1st, 24 through May. It should say 31st, 2027. So, and then the third is to authorize the purchasing manager to sign the purchase order for the enterprise agreement and server and cloud product agreement.
Thank you, John. Any question or comments?
Move as amended, Mr. Chair.
Moved by Supervisor Neves, second by Supervisor Fagundes. This is item A, B, and C. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Joe Nevs.
Yes.
Richard Valley. Doug Verboon.
Yes.
Rusty Robinson.
Yes.
Richard Fagundes.
Yes.
Okay, thank you, John. Item has been approved. Move on now to the Sheriff's Office. We have Sheriff Dave Robinson.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Dave Robinson, Kings County Sheriff, here today to request your board's approval for the purchase of a 2024 Polaris Razor for our water rescue unit. The Razor is going to be used to obviously do enforcement mostly along the Kings River waterway. We know we had a good water year and we're going to have a lot of activity this summer, so the timing couldn't be better. We had some one-time revenues left over from the California Department of Parks and Recreation that we're going to use to purchase the Razor, and then for the ongoing costs, we'll use our California Boating and Safety Enforcement financial aid grant program that comes before your board every year to fund this as we move forward. So, as you know, when we do see flooding or high water years and certain areas are hard to access, a vehicle like this is super helpful to get in and out of those areas and to continue to do the enforcement. We have seen an increase of late of trespassing, and utility vehicles, quads, et cetera. And, this type of vehicle can help and do that enforcement. Just last weekend in Kettleman City, we had a couple hundred people show up and thought they were going to ride across Hewitson Ranch from Kettleman City to Avenel. Luckily, working with the city of Avenel and the chief there, our water rescue unit and other staff went out and shut that down. They were trespassing on private property and we're going to ride the old Kettleman Hills just because they decided they could.
On horses or
On
ATVs?
UTVs and quads, motorcycles, et cetera. And so about 200 to 250 had showed up. We were aware of it through social media. Of course, there's no contact. We tried to make contact ahead of time to try to discourage them from trespassing on private property. But it's this type of equipment that helps us do that type of enforcement. So here today to ask your board to support this and approve the expenditure for this new piece of equipment for us. Thank you.
Okay, any questions or comments? None of us are on the ATV this weekend, right? Moved by Supervisor Robinson.
Second.
Second by Supervisor Neves. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Joe Nevs.
Yes.
Richard Valley. Doug Verboon.
Yes.
Rusty Robinson.
Yes.
Richard Fagundes.
Yes. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Next item is administrative. Gary Martinez.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. On December 29th, the library director, Natalie Rencher, retired, leaving a vacancy in the role. The board directed staff to initiate recruitment to fill the vacant position. This process has been completed and is recommended the board set the compensation for the newly appointed library director, Ms. Vicky Cervantes, with effective date of April 15th, 2024. The library director position is a crucial position with the county. The position is responsible for the oversight and administrative head of the county's public library system. Ms. Cervantes holds a master's degree from San Jose State University, where she majored in library and information science. And Ms. Cervantes also holds a bachelor's degree from Chapman University, where she majored in social sciences. Ms. Cervantes has been a city librarian for the city of Porterville for the past 16 years, and prior to that was a librarian for the city of Tulare for more than 4 years. Ms. Cervantes has the experience in those previous roles to lead Kings County public library system. The proposed salary is $11,778 per month. At this time, we request the board to confirm the appointment of Vicky Cervantes to the position of library director effective Monday, April 15th, and set the compensation. Ms. Cervantes would like to say a few words, if you allow her.
Good morning.
Well, thank you for welcoming me to Kings County. I'm delighted to be here. I don't know if you're aware, it's National Library Week, so how fitting that this item is on your agenda today. I'm ready to hit the ground running. I have 28 years in serving the public through library services, and I can't wait to get started in the Kings County community.
Welcome. Any questions or comments from the board? Any second thoughts? Any second thoughts?
Hasn't even started yet. Let her get started first.
It's Monday.
I know. She's. Yeah. Well, good luck.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Do I have director from the board? Moved by Supervisor Fagundes, second by Supervisor Neves. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Joe Nevs,
Yes.
Richard Valley, Doug Verboon.
Yes.
Rusty Robinson.
Yes.
Richard Fagundes.
Yes. 5 in favor. Would you like to give an acceptance speech?
That was it. That was it.
Thank you. Welcome. Looking forward to working with you. I'll go to the library one of these days.
That
Okay.
card you got in the 60s is still good.
Yeah. Okay, next we're going to go to item 2 on administrative.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Carrie Martinez again. Administration is proposing a policy to establish protocols and procedures to guide departments, agencies in developing appropriate standards for online social media activity. The intent of the policy is to also incorporate countywide social media use protocols and procedures intended to mitigate associated risks from the use of this technology. Social media provides local governments with a powerful tool to engage with communities, disseminate information, and gather feedback. Platforms like Twitter, also known as X, Facebook, and Instagram, enables governments to quickly communicate important updates such as emergency alerts, road closures, and event announcements. Additionally, social media facilitates a two-way communication, allowing officials to receive input from residents, address concerns, engage public issues on various items. By leveraging social media effectively, local governments can foster transparency, increase civic participation, and build stronger connections with the constituents. At this time, I would actually like to introduce Justin Caparuso. He is our county public information officer. The county officially launched their social media platforms on May 16, 2023. So he will give you some metrics on how those platforms are doing to date.
Perfect. Thank you, Kyria. Thank you, Chair and Board of Supervisors for having me this morning. So as you know, as Kyria just referenced, the county launched Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, or X, platforms officially on May 16th, 2023. And we figure since you are reviewing and considering a proposal around a social media policy today, that we would give you an update on how those media platforms and our strategy have enhanced and amplified our ability to communicate with our residents. Kyria mentioned some of these statistics, but I'm going to go through a few additional. Studies have shown that leveraging social media effectively can enhance communication, engagement, and collaboration between local governments and their constituents. There are many benefits of social media, and I'm going to go through a few. Increased civil engagement, providing a direct line of communication to residents. Transparency and accountability, allowing governments to keep citizens informed about local decisions, initiatives, and spending, thereby building trust and credibility. Real-time communication, which I think is very important, allows for providing for instant communication, allowing local governments to disseminate important information during emergencies, natural disasters, or other critical events. Community building, highlighting local events, success stories, and initiatives. It promotes civic pride and a shared sense of belonging to a community. Social media is cost effective as opposed to less expensive than traditional forms of communication as print advertising or direct mail pieces. Data collection and analysis. The tool allows us to gather valuable insights from the community via surveys, feedback, comments, things of that nature. And then educational outreach and resources, enabling us to really push out educational awareness and on various topics, public health initiatives, safety tips, road closures like we've seen recently, and other impacts like that. If you look on the screen, Christine is sharing the data for the last year that we have collected for our Instagram and our Facebook profiles. This is Instagram. I'm not going to read through and go through everything, but I did want to give you guys some definitions of what we're looking at here. On Instagram, reach is the number of people who have seen content in several of the different features, the discovery feature, the feed, or tag posts. You can see the metrics on the side there indicating 4.3 thousand. Visits are the number of times the profile was visited, and followers are the number of times accounts have followed. So even those who have fallen off or followed and refollowed us will appear once. Down here, I think, is the important slide to show, and that's just the trajectory of all of the metrics throughout the year, really showing the effectiveness of a growing platform and a growing audience, I think, within the county. And then Christine, you can go to the second one for Facebook, and I won't read through all those metrics, but they're really good as well. Lastly, as you may recall, last week, the board adopted a resolution transitioning the URL, as we see here in front of us, to countyofkingsca.gov. Along with that transition, IT department, we have been working on updating the homepage of the website, and effective today, the new homepage has been updated with a slightly different format and for ease of use and customer experience. And then if you scroll down, it also now has all 3 social platforms embedded directly into the website. So this allows for residents who do not engage in social media on their own to see the same content that we're sharing on our platforms going forward. Thank you for your time. That's all I have to present, and I'll turn it back to Kyria.
Thank you, Justin. Any question or comments for Justin? You want to do a selfie?
Yeah, I'm good.
I like to also highlight that Justin writes all our press releases. So all those ones that you see that are released, they are written very well by Justin. And so I really appreciate, his thoughtfulness and all the press releases that have been since we brought him on.
Now, Justin, you work for RCRC still too for the same thing?
Yeah.
No? Just for a decade. Okay. All right. Thank you. This is a motion. What is this?
Move the policy.
Move for a policy, yeah. Moved by Supervisor Neves. Second by Supervisor Robinson. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Joe Nevs.
Yes.
Richard Valley.
Aye.
Doug Verboon.
Yes.
Rusty Robinson.
Yes.
Richard Fagundes.
Yes.
Okay, 5 in favor. Thank you, Justin. Okay, move on now. We have a study session. This is behavioral health, and we have Dr. Lisa Lewis. Morning.
Good morning. Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Lisa Lewis, Kings County Behavioral Health. I'd first just like to thank Justin and administration for the PIO services. He's been so responsive and helpful to us, and it's really made a difference in our ability to get accurate information out to the public in a timely manner. So it's been fantastic. And also welcome to our new library director. I know Porterville hates to lose you. So nice to have you. Okay. I'm here with Christy Lepke, our deputy director, Laura Tafoya, our fiscal analyst, and Brenda Maya Pagan, our MHSA manager today. We're here before your board today to do a study session and present to you on what the department knows thus far on the recently voter-approved Proposition 1. I'll turn it over to Christy in just a minute to take you through all the nuance, but before we get started, I wanted to note that this fiscal year 24-25 will be the year that the State Department of Healthcare Services and the State Mental Health Services Oversight and Accountability Commission will develop the guidelines around implementation of Proposition 1. We will spend a lot of time in the next year or so, doing a lot of interactive processes with both of those departments. As such, the department, along with all counties, will gain a greater understanding of the impacts of Prop 1 as it relates to the current and future programs and funding. We anticipate bringing this back before your board once these details are better understood. And until then, we're going to speak today on what's known right now. And just for some context, I wanted to let you know that Prop 1 represents one of 11 major initiatives that the department is working on right now. So we hope to come back to you in about a month, hopefully in May, to give a good general overview of all the initiatives we are working on and how Prop 1 fits into all that. One of the things you'll see over time is that our budget is expanding by about 34% this year. The main reason for that is the increased Medi-Cal billing. We have doubled our Medi-Cal billing from about 6 million in the last year to anticipated over 12 million. So the revenue is coming in very well because of the effective management and oversight of the system of care by our administration. Additionally, we have about 9 million that we brought in grants in the last couple of months. So that's the reason for the expansion of the budget. But what Christy will explain to you is that with Prop 1 and some of the other initiatives, our department is going to be required to serve a larger population. So even though our budget is growing, the population we serve is also growing. And that's going to be the interesting challenge in how we move things around and how we strategize. Okay, Christy.
Can we bring up the slideshow? We don't have access to that.
Oh, okay. Christine, Matthew in our office can pull up the presentation if you guys don't have, just to kind of move the meeting along. Matthew, can you log in real quick?
Yeah, I'm getting that right now. It's just coming up. Bear with me just a second.
Thank you. So Christy Lefty, Deputy Director at Kings County Behavioral Health. I also wanted to chime in about the work that's been done with Justin by our department. I feel we've had more successful recruitment of our positions because we're able to take the well-crafted visual demonstration of position openings and move them onto LinkedIn through our various, I think, personal accounts. And so I feel like we're reaching far greater audience through all of our personal connections. And so I just would like to echo the fact that that's just been wildly successful.
Dr. Lewis, what slide do you want me to be on?
We'll start. Yeah, so we'll slide 2, please. For the objectives. Thank you. And thank you for doing that, Matthew. Okay, so we'll start with the objectives of this study session. As Dr. Lewis was pointing out, we're just coming to you with what we know so far. Throughout the rest of this year, the State Department of Healthcare Services and the Oversight and Accountability Commission will be bringing out far more guidance, and we'll be able to better understand the impact to our programs, and we'll bring that back to you during those times. At this point, though, we are going to discuss the outcome of the Proposition 1 vote, what is Proposition 1 and the impacts to the Local Mental Health Services Act, as well as local program impact, and then the next steps to follow. Next slide, Matthew. So here on slide 3, you'll see what the outcome of the proposition vote was. So 50.2% of voters voted yes, and therefore it's now been enacted. It will take place as of January 1, 2025, when we received more guidance from the State Department of Healthcare Services. But through this year, it's really about us working with the State Department of Healthcare Services, with the Oversight and Accountability Commission, with the California Behavioral Health Directors Association, and reviewing all of the draft guidance that they'll start releasing and kind of advocating to make sure that the implementation represents the needs of the community and has as much local control as we can maintain as possible. Next slide. So Proposition 1 was on the ballot in March as the Behavioral Health Services Program and Bond Measure. It is also referred to as BHSA, what you've grown to know as MHSA, the Mental Health Services Act, is now going to be the Behavioral Health Services Act, primarily because it is now integrating substance use disorder with mental health, mental illness, so that it's now behavioral health as a whole. That's just one of the many reasons it's kind of broadened to become Behavioral Health instead of Mental Health Services Act. So Proposition 1 was composed of two bills, Senate Bill 326, which redesigns the Mental Health Services Act, as well as Assembly Bill 531, which creates a bond to build residential type behavioral health facilities. Both of these bills passed the legislature and was signed by Governor Newsom October 12, 2023. Next slide. So what does Prop 1 do? This is a very brief summary of kind of the large overarching things that it does. Although there's a lot of nitty-gritty detail, one of the things this doesn't take into account or reflect is some of the changes it even makes to our local behavioral health advisory board, which is a part of the Board of Supervisors. So it adds certain positions that need to be on that board. So there's a lot of nitty-gritty details that'll come out, but these are kind of the overarching summary. So it significantly shifts the Historical Mental Health Services Act funding components to add a housing component, which I'll go over in more detail in the next slide. It expands the populations to be served through Mental Health Services Act funding to add those with substance use disorder alone, so standalone. So you'll kind of see this growing kind of trend of, we came before your board to talk about SB 43, which expands LPS 5150 and conservatorships to those with substance use disorder alone. This too is now being touched by that, where they're saying no longer is Mental Health Services Act intended to just be for individuals with mental illness and the prevention of mental illness, but also will expand to encompass all those with a substance use disorder, regardless of whether they have a co-occurring mental illness or not. So it does expand services to that population without expanding the funding. It also requires that the Mental Health Services Act 3-year plan and annual updates expand to include the substance use disorder stakeholders within the community planning process and to reflect all behavioral health funding within the fiscal areas of the plans to show the integration of Mental Health Services Act within the overall funding of the county behavioral health services. So this is the part where we really don't know much right now, because the state, through this proposition, it has just given over to Department of Healthcare Services and the State Mental Health Services and Oversight and Accountability Commission the ability to then give instruction on what changes need to occur in the plan, as well as what data to collect and report on an annual basis, so forth and so on. So the intricacies of the impact to the actual plan itself are unknown, but we know that it needs to do two things. One, it needs to broaden to include stakeholders now that can actually represent the substance use disorder population alone, as well as it must integrate so that it's not just focused on the Mental Health Services Act or what will be the Behavioral Health Services Act funding. Rather, it'll encompass the total funding of the whole department to show how this isn't a parallel system to the mental health and substance use disorder services, rather a full integration of the services. It may require specific evidence-based programs and community best practices. And while the department agrees with adopting evidence-based programs where applicable and appropriate, the state deciding which ones counties must adopt rather than counties adopting those that will best meet the community need and the most appropriate for the diversity of the community demonstrates an increased state control. And so there has been mentioned that, so right now we have what's called full service partnership programs within our Mental Health Services Act component of community services and supports. And full service partnership programs is a higher level of care than traditional mental health. So everybody comes in at the lowest level of care, which is traditional mental health, where you come in, you have clinic-based services and you're engaging and handling your own appointments. Those that, though, that is not successful for, because a lot of times they're experiencing engagement barrier issues, move on to a higher level of care where it's lower caseload, it's more field-based services. We're bringing more of the services to them than then coming to us, as well as a lot of intensive case management to help them remove whatever engagement barriers they may be having, such as housing issues, transportation issues. So the state is deciding on how they may add additional levels of care within that level of care. And so in requiring that, they're then telling us what we must have as a service option to our residents of Kings County. And while we've always tried to follow evidence-based practices so that, you know, we're more guaranteed $1 spent, $2 earned, and that there's clinical outcome that's kind of tried and true. We want to make sure that we have local control to be able to identify, is this a level of care that meets the need of the community, that we see within the need of our clients? And so we're losing a little bit of local control by having evidence-based programs required of us, whether our community needs that or not. So I just wanted to point that kind of out. So it's just losing a little bit of flexibility to be responsive to community-based needs as demonstrated through our community planning process, because we will need to devote our funding far more to these full service partnership programs, as well as the evidence-based programs that they're telling us about. And then lastly, it creates a $6.3 billion bond to build residential settings ranging from congregate and community housing to locked facilities. Slide 6. Thank you. So this slide shows a visual depiction of the current MHSA funding components and their associated percentage of funding in comparison to the new BHSA funding and funding components. So currently, Mental Health Services Act is funded through 76% of the total funds going to community services and supports, which are treatment services to those with a mental illness. So this component currently includes the Adult Assertive Community Treatment Program, also known as ACT, and the Children's and Adults Full Service Partnership Program, the Collaborative Justice Treatment Court, and the Barbara Seville Shelter, and the 24/7 Warm Line. 19% of total MHSA funds currently goes towards prevention and early intervention, which goes towards community outreach and prevention type programs, as well as programs to identify and engage with those experiencing first onset of mental illness. This component currently includes the California Health Collaborative school-based prevention and early intervention programs, the community-based trainings such as mental health first aid, and support groups such as a veteran support group, the first episode psychosis program, the community marketing and outreach to include flyers, advertising, and promotional items, suicide prevention and postvention such as the LOSS team, the assist community trainings, the DRAW program, which is in our local community, local junior colleges, and the Central Valley Suicide Prevention Hotline. It also includes 2-on-1 funding and the Senior Access for Engagement, also called SAFE program, with the Kings County Commission on Aging. So we do a lot with that 19%. And then the last 5% towards innovation, which are funds to pilot new and or change practices or strategies in the field of mental health. So this component currently includes the new semi-statewide electronic health record systems project. So that is where we are with our current mental health services allocation. So now with the new behavioral health services allocation, it collapses that 76% into a 35% pot for FSP services alone. So just full service partnership, as well as 30% towards housing. And so right now with the 76% going to community services and supports, that includes full service partnership, as well as participant support. So if somebody comes to us with that higher level care need with FSP needs, they may have housing assistance as a reason for the engagement to their, or the barrier to their engagement to services. So we then assist them with housing supports currently in that 76%. And so it makes sense that it goes to 35% towards FSP and 30% towards housing. What will be missing though in that one is you can see the percentage is lower, but then secondly, we lose the general systems development and the outreach and engagement that's currently part of community services and supports, which the general systems development is things that develop your system of care on top of what your traditional mental health pays for. So things like the Collaborative Justice Treatment Court, as well as like the Barbara Seville Shelter for Domestic Violence Survivors. So we're looking at kind of the impacts to that and what other funding sources may be able to support those that might not be supported through this new allocation. Secondly, the prevention and early intervention and the 5% innovation are now collapsed into 35% towards behavioral health services and supports. So that's BHSS. That is kind of what initially when Prop 1 first came out in the early part of 2023 was called other. So that is kind of like the catch-all. It includes prevention and early intervention, workforce education and training, innovation, and all other capital facilities and infrastructure like technology. So, but in that 35%, 51% must go to early intervention, and of that 51% must go to services to 25 individuals 25 years of age and younger. So you can see that while it appears as though prevention and early intervention has grown, our ability to do prevention has actually shrunk because we now have to make sure that 51% is going towards early intervention, and then 51% of that is going to services who to individuals who are 25 years of age and younger. And so we're really looking at the impacts to our program, like what do we already have, what already fits in those buckets, what falls out that doesn't fit in those buckets, and then what can we do to possibly sustain them in other funding, or what might actually experience a full impact based on Prop 1. At the bottom part of that, you'll see what this doesn't, it's the state's allocation of this. So Mental Health Services Act is called the millionaire's tax. It's 1.76% tax to anybody who makes $1 million or more in the state of California. So when they pay their tax, their income tax, 1.76% goes to Mental Health Services Act. So that will continue to then be Behavioral Health Services Act. There is no change to that 1.76%. So the amount's not changing, but the state is sweeping 10% instead of 5% like they used to. So it used to be 5% went to the state just to be able to administer Mental Health Services Act. Now they're taking 10%, of which 3% will go towards their administrative cost, 3% will go towards statewide workforce incentives and to address the shortage of clinical staffing across the state that we're experiencing, and then 4% towards population-based prevention. So the prevention we're allowed to do with the new BHSS allocation is individual specific, not population specific. And so they are going to kind of take up the charge to do population specific prevention. So campaigns such as, I think you might have heard Cal Hope, or they'll help us fund the 988 crisis and prevention lifelines. So things that are far more broad in population-based prevention. Next slide. So while this slide is to depict the impacts to local program, it more so summarizes what is leading to impacts to the local programs, because the department is still undergoing detailed review of program impacts, especially as it relates to further guidance the state will release on such things as any required evidence-based programs, the definition of services to the chronically homeless, et cetera. I mentioned chronically homeless because I failed to mention in the last slide, the 30% that goes to housing. At this time, it says 51% of that must go to individuals who are chronically homeless. We're not sure what that means. We know what it means by the HUD's definitions, but in Prop 1, it specifies that DHS will actually come out with the definition. So we're not sure if the funding that we already use to fund those in housing that are in our full service partnership programs, if they were chronically homeless before they then were brought into the housing that we now fund, if they will be grandfathered into this, or if this will be 51% to go to services to the chronically homeless without supplementation, meaning you cannot use what you've already expended. And right now, when we have looked at our funding of what are we paying for right now, where would it fit in the new buckets, we actually fund about 30% of housing. So we're meeting that housing primarily in board and care costs. And so we have individuals who are needing the higher level of treatment and they are needing housing assistance. And most of that funding is then going to support them in a state licensed board and care. And so we're really not sure how that's going to impact that funding. So while this says impacts the local program, it more so just summarizes what will be impacting local programs. Next slide. So the next steps are as follows. For the remainder of this calendar year in 2024, the State Department of Healthcare Services and the State Mental Health Oversight and Accountability Commission will be working with counties and the California Behavioral Health Directors Association to develop guidelines on how counties are to adopt and implement Proposition 1. Starting January 2025, county behavioral health departments will begin their community planning process for the development of the 2026 to 2029 first three-year BHSA plan, as well as discuss with all entities currently funded through Kings County MHSA any impacts Prop 1 may have to their program. Starting January 2026, county behavioral health departments begin their final draft of the 2026 to 2029 BHSA plan and take it to the public for public review and public comment to be heard at our at a public hearing at our Behavioral Health Advisory Board, and then it'll be brought here to the Board of Supervisors for review and approval. It has to be approved and to the state by June 30th, 2026, so that it is now implemented and we are starting our BHSA path on July 1st, 2026. I'll turn it back to Dr. Lewis for any final comments, and I'm available to your board for any questions you may have at this time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I know it's really intricate. Yeah, I can't say the word today. It's very complex, but we're happy to answer any questions that you might have, and we're happy to continue to talk about this as we go forward and learn more. One of the great things about it is we do have funding for building crisis stabilization, locked facility, things like that, and have already started into communication with an outside entity that may be willing to work with us to build a locked facility and a crisis stabilization unit in our county. So that's one of the great benefits of this. We just have a lot of complexity.
Any questions from the board? Yes.
Do you foresee ripple effects that will eventually impact the general fund? I know you're well funded now. The next question is, it appears to me this is just the state seizing more control. Do you see benefits to this, or?
It's, as I was saying, it is complex. And, you know, where the state starts to take more control over things like evidence-based practices, that's a little concerning to us because we do want to be as responsive as we can to our community and use the practices, the evidence-based practices that we know are the best for our community. On the other hand, we have had about 15 years of trying out a lot of new evidence-based practices during the time we've had MHSA. So we've had things like ACT team developed. We've had PCIT, which is a kind of interactive process where you help to train parents of young children through how to do great parenting. Things like that have developed over the years that are now considered acceptable evidence-based practices, which a state is going to require, and that's okay. Like all of these are really good things. So the evidence-based practices they're going to require are excellent. We just want to make sure that we can fit them appropriately to our needs. So that's one thing that's a little bit, we're not sure yet. As far as the funding, that's why we've needed to develop our department so much in the last couple of years and why the next couple of years are going to be so crucial. We've needed to get to the place where we're running our business really well, where we're bringing in excellent Medi-Cal funding, which is why the fact that we are now doubling our Medi-Cal funding is a good indication that we are doing very well. We've additionally been able to go out for grants and brought in almost $9 million in the last couple of years. Some of that funding we use in these programs and services, and some of it we're passing through to other partners to help with things like housing. So it's a very complex picture of all the different ways we're bringing in funding. But the number one thing is we have to run our business well. We have to do great oversight of our providers, and we have to make sure that our billing is excellent. What that means is great productivity, that our clinicians out there in our system are not wasting time with things that don't cause billing, that we take administrative burdens off of them so that they can get out there and do their work and do their, see the patients and do the billing so that we can bring in more funding and grow our system, which is something we've been able to do and we foresee that we will be able to do. I don't foresee any reason that we would be coming for general fund as long as we're running our business well.
You don't foresee a staff reduction?
No, if anything, we need a staff increase. So you have to think of our department as an administration, as a managed care administration, and then we contract out all these services and we oversee them very tightly. We meet with them quarterly. We look at the services they're providing. We look at all their statistics, all their billing, all the people they've been seeing. And we do intensive oversight of these programs. Our administration represents 11% of our overall budget. So our budget's going to be over 50 million. 11% of that is our department. We are probably going to need to grow to 12%. But that is almost nothing when you consider what we're able to generate as far as revenue through good oversight and billing.
So I have a couple of questions. So, the taxpayers or the voters only voted this in by 0.2%. So half the population is not real happy with it, half thinks it's great.
Mhm.
Do you see this reducing our behavioral health population or just continuing, keep it the same forever?
I see it as increasing our capacity to reach more people. See, so you have to remember that county mental health serves people with Medi-Cal and with no health insurance. Mostly people have Medi-Cal at this point. But a lot of these things, as we go into the future where we're reaching out to people who have substance use disorder issues and are going to be pulled into our system, a lot of those folks are going to have private health insurance. And we have expanded our ability to bill private health insurance after we bill Medi-Cal, something that we've been able to do through our great fiscal analyst, and we're just building our capacity all the time. There's a bill that's going to be going before the legislature. It's the Eggman bill that will actually require FSP services to people who have private health insurance, because our system really works well for people who have a high level of need. And if you have private health insurance, a lot of times you just simply cannot access that. So with this new bill, we may be expanding to provide services to people with private health insurance and then billing that private health insurance using our system. So it's the beginning of a lot of expansion. I think that's a good thing.
I know when people think about behavioral health or mental health issues, they're not thinking about someone that has a job or has private insurance. They're thinking about the guy in the street or the person in the corner, the person living in the creek. We don't want to see them continue to grow. We want to see that population be reduced. Does it attract those people into your facility as well?
Absolutely. That's our primary population. So, for instance, if we're able to do crisis stabilization, in other words, when somebody needs services that they need to be evaluated or they need to be pulled into our system, we don't want them in the ED of the hospital. We want them in a facility that's set up specifically to meet their needs, something that we could build that would be a small crisis stabilization unit where we evaluate them, get them into services, start treating them immediately. Or if they need to go to the hospital, we can start their meds in that environment without waiting for them to get to a hospital, which can take days and sometimes weeks. So that's a really good thing. And we believe we're going to be able to be more responsive to people who are coming directly off the streets, who have substance use disorder problems and mental illness.
Got to keep them out of the hospitals and out of the jails as well, right?
Exactly. That's the
And help
intention.
them make proper
Mhm.
decisions. And with a behavioral health issue problem, you have a hard time making right choices. So it's a chance to get them corrected before it gets worse, right?
Right, I agree. And one of the things that's great about this is that our county, it being as small as it is, it was very hard for us up to this point to consider being able to build a PUF with this, which is a psychiatric facility, which is basically a small locked psych facility, right? We haven't been able to do that. And with this funding, we likely will.
Okay, so we'll be able to see it. It has to be in effect by 2026, right?
Yes, we are in a 27-month.
We'll document our population that we have right now and monitor it the whole way through to make sure we can reduce that and show the people that we have done something good for the community.
I
right?
think we can look at that, yeah. Absolutely. I mean, we have all kinds of ways that we measure things, so we can.
It's just difficult when it's only half, 0.2% is not that much. So you got half people that are going to be very furious that their tax dollars are going to go pay for someone that's not making any money. And so we have to show that we're doing something positive.
I understand.
Any other questions from the board? Okay, this is just a public hearing, so thank you.
Thank you. We'll be back.
Okay, we'll move on now to, this is a study session, so no public hearing. Dominic, how are we doing today?
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, Dominic Tyberski, Public Works Department. Before you this morning to present a follow-up to the study session held on March 12th of this year regarding the flooded roads in and around the Corcoran area. In early March of 2023, heavy snow runoff began to occur. In March of that year, the snowpack was measured at 190% of normal. The following month, it increased to 237%, and then in May, peaked at 254% of normal. The California Department of Water Resources stated that this was one of the largest snowpacks ever reported. As a result, once the snow began to melt and the runoff came down the hills, has created extensive flooding and brought the reemergence of the Tulare Lake, which, as you know, was once the largest freshwater body west of the Mississippi. So flooding peaked in May, June of last year. Many miles. So can we, Catherine?
Are we able to put the map up? Or?
You said you would have somebody share that.
Oh, my apologies. Okay, I misunderstood. Anyway, board members, you all have the map showing the roads. So the flooding peaked in May, June of 2023, at which time the water did start to recede. Throughout the flood, as we've mentioned, many miles of roads were submerged. But unfortunately, it didn't stop the motorists from going around our barricades. Many vehicles were lost, including the Department of Corrections. They actually lost a van in the water. So as a result, the Public Works Department secured K-Rail from Caltrans and California High-Speed Rail to prevent people from going around the barricades to keep the motoring public safe. So regarding efforts made by the department and the county, the first meeting with FEMA, FHWA, and Cal OES for preliminary damage assessment was held on April 5th of 2023. The department commissioned more Twining to pull samples and provide a geotechnical analysis of the damage sustained by the roads. The report provided in November of 2023 indicated roads would not sustain under the anticipated TI or traffic index, the vehicle loading. So the recommendation at that time was to keep the roads remaining closed. Department continued to coordinate with these agencies, meeting on a regular basis with follow-up subsequent field reviews. Consultant Witt O'Brien was brought on to assist in cutting through the red tape to try to secure funding from state and federal agencies. And again, it was recommended that the roads remain closed because the funding required that we not allow traffic on the roads to try to determine, what was caused by flood damage versus, subsequent damage by loading the road. So what has changed? Initially at $1 million a mile to reconstruct a roadway, it was prudent to keep the roads closed. County's obligations to keep the motoring public safe and manage the asset outweighed the convenience of the public to be able to utilize those roads. But significant time has passed. The waters receded. The funding opportunities at this point seem to be minimal. We're not really getting very far with any of these agencies, and it doesn't look promising. So the scales have shifted. The community need is outweighing due to the cost. I do know that Boswell, for instance, is paying a stipend to their employees for the additional miles traveled. We've got harvest coming up. These vehicles need these roads to be able to service the fields. So the geotechnical recommendations are at least in part based on Moore Twining's critique of our existing structural section. So, obviously we can't afford to build roads the way Caltrans does or the federal government, but over the years we've been very creative in using alternative design sections, and they've held up very well. So right now, subsequent sampling is in process. It's scheduled to be complete today. And we are anticipating a preliminary memo the next 4 weeks to give us an idea of, what's changed, at least under the subsurface that you can't see. The week of the last meeting that we had here, we had roads mobilized. The roads crew went out. They started working on 10th Avenue primarily to repair the damage. The plan is to open all roads by May 1st. We will be opening roads as they become available, as they are safe to utilize. And at this point, there's just a very small section of 4th that's still underwater. So, thank you. So everything that you see on that map, with the exception of 4th, will be opened by May 1st and accessible to the public. So, and I do have staff here, but if you have any questions, I'd be happy to try to answer.
Thank you, Dominic. Any questions or comments?
For starters, thank you for the work on the roads. Very appreciative of that. I think it's necessary for the basin, necessary for commerce. It just appears like, we had to reach public outcry before this got addressed. Just see us as like In the last 2 weeks, we kind of went from zero to blast off, right? We had a study session, then we were talking about prioritizing 3 or 4 roads. Now we're talking about all the roads. That's like a big change in 2 weeks. So love the Band-Aid fixes. You know, when I traveled out there, there were some parts of the shoulder, you could fall off by 4 feet, which means a vehicle could possibly roll, semi could roll.
Did you go around a barricade?
No, the barricades were moved by the time we got there. By the way, I don't know who did that, but out there, I think off of just where Pueblo turns, somebody had already moved that. So I don't know if you did it or one of the farmers had done. But the point is just that it was super dangerous, right? And with the shoulders and such. And so I understand your concerns. But on the other hand, we're doing a lot of these Band-Aid fixes now. And we're doing them real fast. It just seemed like like I say, once again, we went from nothing to a whole lot in 2 weeks. And why weren't we doing that before? Sure. And the last question is, now that we are doing this work, because I know the holdoff always was the reimbursement feature, right? And so now it sounds like you're somewhat negative on the reimbursement feature. But are we now jeopardizing that funding? Because that's the whole reason why we were going to prioritize.
Yes. Yeah, those are great questions. So regarding the funding, as I've said, you know, well, let me back up a little bit. It appeared that we weren't doing anything, and that I understand that. But that's just not the case. You know, we were meeting with the agencies. We were doing field visits. We were working on trying to secure funding for the county. As those funding opportunities are diminishing and it's not looking real promising, you know, or, you know, we're being told, yeah, it would be nice to replace this road, but as I could see, the flood damage just, you know, impacted this little section here. So that's what we'll pay for. That's not really going to help us. So, you know, regarding the shoulders, absolutely. All of those are being corrected. There's going to be some remediation in some of the areas that, you know, have damage that are visible to the naked eye. For the most part, you know, it's going to be a wait and see. You know, my belief is that we are going to have some localized sections that fail. We're going to have to close those sections ultimately. My hope is that doesn't happen, but with the number of trucks that they're talking about putting on these roads, I fully expect that we're going to have some issues.
Supervisor Valley.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I see this differently. I see it differently than my colleague. I didn't see that the county was doing nothing or that you and your staff was doing nothing. I mean, let's be clear, the buck stops here with the Board of Supervisors. We're the leaders. And that trigger didn't get pulled until the last study session when the board gave the authority to move forward. Until then, there was no authority given to you or to your staff to move forward on all of this. And because of fiscal issues being the number one priority, I would think that it's a fair statement and not speaking for it, but I think fiscally our CAO is concerned with moving forward at this pace. Our firefighters should be concerned because it was pointed out clearly that there are fiscal risks to this. Now, whether or not that changes or FEMA comes through, which they, you know, we're getting stuck with a large part of the bill for housing homeless people during the pandemic when, you know, we were told they were going to pay for all that. So I don't like that perception. I don't like the perception of a department head getting thrown to the bus just to please somebody else or please some other interest. And I would never let that be the image presented because, yeah, sometimes stuff rolls downhill. But at the end of the day, when it's tough times and tough decisions to make, that's on the 5 of us. So whether we bear making the right decision and get praise, which is rare, or more commonly, we make a decision and we get grief over. And that's fine because, you know, we ask for these jobs and when you're a public figure and you're making decisions like this, leadership demands that you got to be able to do that. So I do want to commend you. I believe that you handled this the right way. You were given authority during a very tough time, during the flooding crisis. You had a lot of stress, a lot of tough decisions to make that we put on you. But as we come out of that, it is us. And so, again, hey, I think that commerce and roads are traveled when there was water on the roads and harvesting took place. Okay, there was some concerns, and majority of the board said move forward with this. But I would say we got to keep an eye on our fiscal matters, our budget on this, because this could go bad. This could go bad. And I believe I asked during the last study session, there was a risk to the general fund. That answer was yes. One of your colleagues who was listening to the board meeting, the gentleman's here right now, he came in with concerns and highlighting other commitments of road funds and budgets. And so we're going to get complaints for other road projects that are going to lack the attention now as well. So this isn't a very solid decision, but I respect it as a majority of the board, Mr. Chairman. And again, so this is a position we're in. Sometimes we take risks, and but that's leadership, right, sir? And so we'll move forward in support of this.
Okay, thank you. Any other comment? Good.
If I could, I just would like to go back to Supervisor Robinson. So again, if there's a potential to get significant amount of funding, my position would be the same. We need to keep the roads closed. We shouldn't, we can't put the county at risk for millions of dollars in potential loss. That being said, again, those funding opportunities I don't see them materializing, not in a significant way. So at that point, why are we keeping the roads closed?
Now, my comment would be, as a farmer, you have ground, not all ground's the same. And sometimes you have that heavier ground that never dries out.
Sure.
And once you crack that asphalt and it stays wet, it is like a sponge. It keeps deteriorating. So we're going to have problems somewhere out there. And I'm sure your road crew is pretty sharp. They know where they're at already. And so do what they can to keep the trucks off them as long as they can until time to run. But we don't want them falling apart once they start working. Then we just defeat the whole purpose. Wayne?
I would say the section of grading between 6th and 4th. When we did a double chip seal a few years ago, that was staying real nice. And in fact, we were scheduled to go there this year to re-chip everything, but that didn't happen. That section, I'm thinking about doing a double chip on it now because the whole top layer came off.
And that's because the road is spongy.
No, it sat underwater so long.
Oh, okay.
And the oils just dissipated. It didn't hold it. And we already have, we're out there doing some skin patching now. They've done some skin patching up by 10th, between 6th and 10th. They're on 6th Avenue now. They're even doing further on 6th Avenue, some of the other bad spots. But within the next couple of week or so, we're going to have to we'll do a double chip, but we still have Pueblo to do the patch on where the road was cut to put the levee in. And then on 19th, still patch it. I don't have quite enough men to do both things at one time, even though the road's closed. Supposed to be closed. That we could do it and try to make it work to where we could still do skin patching on and on 19th and Pueblo. Now, and Newton from 12th to 15th and 15th. The farmers are the only ones that really use that one. I've already tentatively told them we're gonna leave it closed because that's one of the worst ones that they're really washed up on. And we were out there last week for the final inspection. We went through everything again to help, try to help us get where we can get the funding. Goes there, that, because it washed the edge of the road up onto the existing road. And it's, if we go in there with the grader right now, it would, and try to shave that all off, it'd just destroy the road. And I've talked to Gilkeys about it. They use it, Henson's uses it. Boswell's do too. So it's one of the sections that we're gonna try to leave closed as long as we can. And we'll do a little, because we got a couple sections up that we've got about a 3 foot, 4 foot drop off on the shoulder. That we'll get in there, we'll take care of that. Once we get these other ones all done. And then get back in. Some more. But it's easier if we can work on them when they're closed. They are using flags to advise the motoring public, are using the roads. Last year at Christmas, we had a drunk truck driver wiped out one of them barricades on 6th Avenue at the south end. And so, but
Well, this will be an ongoing process for several years. So what I would do is recommend Dominic working with either me or Rusty or whoever and try to find some funding available through our legislative staff at the state capitol or through Congress. And any kind of extra money we can find to help fix these roads, prepare for the next flood.
and we're trying to do a full depth reclamation with the cement added to the sub base. We do have one section that was underwater that we just did one 2018 on CMAQ funding, which was racing 10th Avenue, but it was south of the flood, so that one didn't get underwater. Racing is holding up right now, but not very many people are using it. Because the 4th Avenue still has water and a little bit of, what is it, 120 in Tulare County.
Okay, well, thank you. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, could I ask a question of our CEO? Thank you. Carrie, do you, not put you in a position, I don't know if you're prepared to answer, but just in generally speaking, any budget changes you've had to look at, modifications as it relates to moving forward here or any fiscal concerns?
Not currently in the current year requested budget. Do we have anything really coming out of the road funds? They are able to live within their means currently in their fund.
Next year?
I don't anticipate anything next year. Again, it all depends on how our FEMA reimbursement comes along and, you know, what we get reimbursed for those. But we're still working through that process. Even though we are going to open the roads, we still aren't stopping our financial consultant to continue that process.
Good, that's good news there, but again, waiting on that FEMA, which the track record so far hasn't been good, but hopefully, our federal lobbyists are working FEMA and
Yeah,
staying
we talked to our
connected as
federal
well
lobbyists,
too.
and we also talked to our congressional staff, and their eyes are on it right now.
Yeah.
We had 2 congressmen, we only have 1 right now, so once we get 1 back, we'll have more support.
Yeah, and on that topic too, just in my experience too, in the 6 years working in the assembly, it's not so much our representative that's speaking to the choir. It's speaking to the other members of Congress and the other senators and assembly members that don't represent our area to get the traction and the vote and the support. Obviously, I would hope that any elected official that represents our area knows how critical, you know, it's been the last 2 years, but it's always the other members.
We talked to this depth when we're back to DC in February, right?
Good. And I just want to close. Mr. Chair, just by saying, you know, we got to look a little bit to the positive. I know there's negative things that we all got to see and work through, and I'm not blind to them, but the positive side is, you know, as far as Corcoran anyways, in my district, I mean, we were sitting there in Corcoran with the last 2 roads in and out. All right, when we were surrounded by water, you know that. I mean, we had to reach out to high-speed rail who came through and rebuilt the road for us. But, You know, if Cross Creek Bridge would have went out and took out 43, I mean, we were looking at a situation of being landlocked. So now that that is gone, I see it more to the brighter side than to the negative side. Yeah, okay, the roads are bad and we got work to do, but the water's clearing up, and if there was an emergency, you know, we can still get in and out through those roads too. So just good work to everyone and good work to all the board and as we move through this. So.
Thank you. One last thing I want to mention, I have asked staff to create a video record of the roads. I mean, I've driven all those roads, you know, multiple times. You know, there are definitely some areas that are better than others. But by creating a video record, we'll have, you know, snapshot in time of what the roads were before we opened them versus after. We anticipate that'll
We'll
help.
start with the airboat ride over the water. Say that we're on 9th Avenue right now, so.
Yeah, yeah, there you go.
Very good. Okay, any more questions? Thank you, Dominic.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is Terry Johnson with Young's Inc. I just wanted to voice my concern. Last year's we had, to what you mentioned, the Boswell harvest out there with the number of trucks that we had. It was very difficult, to say the least, to be able to put the traffic on the few roads that were open. Some of the roads that you gentlemen are talking about now are vital to us in getting the harvest in, for several reasons, from a safety standpoint of traffic flow on exterior roadways, as well as some of the routes that we're talking about with shoulder works. We've dealt with the supervisors in the past with some of the shoulders being rough and things of that nature. However, I can't voice our concern enough that we need these roads opened up. There's much more than just a flow of traffic. There's a safety concern level of it that is unprecedented in my thought process. And it's not necessarily on the day side, it's on the night side. When you're out there after dark on some of these roads, the shoulders on them, to say the least, are not the best, but added nighttime travel, headlights coming in your direction, things of that nature, it's even more of an issue. So I understand the budget. I understand we all have needs. I understand that there are things that need to be met. However, I think there's got to be some kind of a balance of what we can get accomplished. I know the Boswell Group, the Gilkeys, the Hansons, several of us have voiced this. We do have canneries in the north that follow with Newton's Fields on the north side, as well as Tomatech and Boswell's group. The traffic that we have out there is immense, and the public, the harvesters, operators, the tractor operators, they're on the roadway with our trucks. And at the end of the day, it's imperative, I think, that we get these roads opened up in a safe manner for the livelihood of all that's involved. And basically, end of the day, make sure everybody goes home safe. So I just wanted to put those comments out there. I do not envy you guys. You're all in a very difficult position. However, this to us and many others is crucial to be able to get it done. So appreciate your time on it, and I wish you the best.
Nope, thank you. Appreciate your comment. Anybody else online? Nope, we're good.
I'd just like to make one comment. Yeah, we're absolutely aware of the issues with the shoulders. You know, obviously that's why the roads technically have been closed, even though folks are using them. All of the shoulders will be repaired prior to opening. Safety is our number one priority.
Very good. Okay, we're on now to the, if that's it, we'll go on.
Will there be a press release going out on this?
Justin,
Get update, maybe get the map in the media.
I'm sure we can have Justin take care of it.
I'll work with Justin.
I think Corcoran Journal too, please. All right.
Okay, Dominic, you're up next again, and we have another study session.
Yes, sir. Dominic Tyberski, Public Works Department. This one's easy. I get to pass it off to Ashu.
Ashu.
Good morning. Please state your name and address for the record.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman. Ashu Jain, NG, out of Pasadena. Members of the board, it's good to be back in front of the board again. This is the sixth project that I'm bringing in front of the board. It's the first one was in 1998. Supervisor Neves was here. And I'm sure at this rate, I'll be back here in another 4 years, and I'm sure Supervisor Neves will still be here.
Do you look the same?
Looking forward to that.
Does he look the same?
He looks exactly the same. So, so thank you for giving me an opportunity to talk about this project. It started with Public Works and actually Sheriff Robinson because he wanted to see some solar shade structures at the operations building. And I'll tell you that we actually couldn't deliver on that, and I'll tell you why. But after that, we worked with Public Works and then, very intensively with the CAO's office, Mr. Boyd and Ms. Martinez. And, everybody just cooperated wonderfully. And we are bringing forward a project which has so many benefits. We were able to fit in 56 EV chargers. And EV chargers, there's no savings there. But that's the beauty of these projects, that we take savings from any other projects that we do, and we bundle it together, and we are getting, basically buying 56 EV chargers for you, which I understand will help a great deal in retaining and attracting new employees. So kudos to the CAO's office for coming up with this idea and making it happen. So thank you for that. But I'll take you through the presentation now, and please. I do have with me Conrad Newberry, our project director. He's been here in front of your board and various times. And Jacob Goring, our project manager, the guy who's actually done all the hard work. Like I always say, I'm just here for my good luck. So if you can move to the next slide. Oh, do I have to do that? Sorry.
No, just, okay.
Matthew's leading it. He's sharing it for you. You just tell him and he'll move the slide.
Working from home today, but you.
No, he's in his office.
He's in his office.
He's in his office moving the slides.
Yeah, next slide, please. Yeah, you can move forward. That's fine. We do it. I don't need to go through this. We do more projects for counties than anybody else. So this tells you in the government complex, you'll be spending around $700,000 when this project is done. And I wanted to point out one thing, which is really, for the last 1 week, I've been looking at, we did the project that was prior to this, which was a solar and battery storage project. And I asked our, company, like, how much are we actually saving from that? And I was astounded that Edison's rate have gone up by 118% since this project was started, 2018, the previous project. So you are saving $900,000 more than we estimated, because you would have been, so today you're spending between what you pay us for the solar energy and what you pay Edison at this location, you're around 1.4, 1.5 million. If we hadn't done that project, or if you hadn't done that project, it would have been more like $2.4 million. So that's and I was astounded by that. I know Edison's prices have been going up a lot, but I did not expect 100% increase in the last 5-6 years. So that's a great decision the board made, and it saved you a lot of money. If you can go on to the, I'll just take you through the scope. Yeah, go on to the next one. Okay, so what we are proposing now is basically LED lighting in every building in the county. LED lighting, as you know, is better quality lighting. It's save 50% over what you have. So it's virtually maintenance free. So it's a great thing. Next slide, please. Please interrupt me if you have any questions. Otherwise, those are the buildings that we are doing LED lighting at. Next slide. So the other thing we are doing is HVAC. We're replacing 82 units, which are old all over the county. And that's, as you know, HVAC replacement, even though these units are very inefficient. They don't pay for themselves. So what's paying for the HVAC is actually the lighting and something called transformers, which is probably on the next page. Next slide, please. Next one. Okay, I'll come to the transformers. But so, the county had, certain goals. They wanted HVAC replaced because HVAC doesn't pay for itself, and it's very expensive. And when you do it in a planned manner, it doesn't break in the peak of summer, which is usually when the HVAC breaks. So this way, you do it in a very planned manner. The other thing was the control system that controls the HVAC is very old. You have different kind of systems all over the county. And that was a big request from Public Works to have the same system which they can access from their computers for every unit in the county now. So that is something, we worked very hard with Public Works, and it took a lot of time to put together. But we're proposing the same Schneider Controls system for every HVAC unit.
And that can be controlled by one person or multiple people?
It can be controlled by anyone you allow access to. So yeah, and anybody with a computer, I don't know if it can be done with a phone. You can actually do it with a phone too.
Yeah, I have one of my kids still lives at home, and when it's 105 outside and they need to go outside, I just turn AC off.
Yeah.
And I could be anywhere and do it.
Well, you can direct Public Works to do that.
Time to go outside. AC comes off.
Oh, man.
I can even turn TVs off too.
Next slide, please. We're completely renovating the jail. The system was in other places. We are modifying the system at the jail. We are completely putting in a new system, control system. Next slide, please. Next. These are transformers that I was talking about. So LED lighting has very good savings. Transformers actually has great savings, even better than LED lighting. And these are internal transformers, internal to the building. I'm not talking about SCE transformers. These are transformers in every building. And technology has evolved in the last 10 years that they have become very economical and very efficient. Next slide, please. So here's the charging stations. We worked very hard with the CAO's office on the locations, and we're now proposing 56 EV chargers. If you can go to the next slide, please. Kind of hard to see, but they're all over this complex. There are 6 of them are shown here. There'll be 6 sets of 8, or maybe, I think there's one 8 is broken into 2 4s, but there's basically 6 or 7 parking lots that we are putting them in. And then there's one in the sheriff's operations center in the next, I think that's the next one. Next slide. Yeah, we're putting 8 EV chargers there. So that's, one of the key benefits of this project is that we were able to install, or at least we were able to fit in 56 EV chargers and still have positive cash flow. Next slide. The other thing we were proposing, so let me talk about the solar project. So, you still have a pretty large bill at the government center. And we came up with another 1.6 megawatts of solar. We filed an application with SCE before there was a net metering deadline of end of April 2023 to file an application. We filed an application, but SCE came back somewhere in fall and said, you cannot install any more solar at the government center because then you'll have to pay us for upgrading our substation and our transmission lines, which was prohibitive. So we had to scrap that solar project. So that's why we did not. But we were going to install solar here, but now, and this is a parking lot, as you know, which is it's not in good shape. So we are completely redoing this parking lot as part of this project, which is again Again, no savings, but then you're using savings from other projects to pay for itself, so you don't have to come up with it from your general fund. Next slide, please. That's the only solar project we could, would work, which made sense, and that's at Burris Park. It's a shade structure there. Next slide. Okay, that's a little hard to see on that, but so it's a $14 million project, and county's working with K&N Public Finance on the financial on the financing. We have we're not arranging the financing or anything like that. So I worked with them on this cash flow, and the county has also hired a third-party consultant called ARC, who's reviewing our savings as we speak. And so there could be small changes in this, but it's a $14 million project, and pretty conservative assumptions like 5% escalation of electricity cost. Electricity cost has been rising at 20%. So, the more, if you had put, higher escalation, the savings would have looked much better, but this is very conservative. So you're seeing savings on the first column. So solar will, at the Burris Park, will save you around $56,000. HVAC does save you energy, and that's $80,000. The lighting is $283,000. And it gets a little complicated because this is first year. Unfortunately, you have grandfathered into an SCE rate, which will go up in 2 years. So the grandfathering ends in 2 years. So you'll see much higher bills in 2 years down the road. So that's another reason this is a good project. There's projected maintenance and repair savings when we've been very conservative in that. When we do projects, HVAC and lighting and transformers, because then you don't have to spend money in repairing them constantly and replacing them. So the California Energy Commission says, they have guidelines on how to calculate the savings. We've actually been conservative, and we've taken 2/3 the savings that they ask us to take. For the solar project, you should get payment from the federal government from the Inflation Reduction Act. So that's around $200,000. We'll completely maintain the solar project, and net, you'll save, it's kind of a wash in the first few years. And then, but over the life of the project, you're going to save around $5.3 million. So, this project, the key benefits, if you can go to the next slide. The main benefits of this project is really not the energy, not the net savings, but the fact that you're getting EV chargers, which are expensive. You're getting a new parking lot. You're getting new HVAC, and you don't have to come up with all this funding from the general fund. This is funded by project savings. You're saving around 43% of your county's electricity bills through this project. What else? Those are some of the major benefits of this project.
Ashu, on the transformers.
Yeah.
So the new ones are more efficient?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Definitely more efficient. And the transformers last around 30 years. That's their average life. So they're very long lasting. But next slide, please. So we hope to bring, and we have to work with the CAO's office on this, but we hope to bring the project back for your board's consideration on April 30th. And if your board chooses to approve it, it'll roughly take us 18 months to complete this project.
So I have another question.
Yes, sir.
So there's no batteries in this yet?
No.
That would be the next step for our.
No. We did a battery in phase 4, and we looked at battery storage again this time, and it didn't pencil. Even with the Inflation Reduction Act, you would have received 30% from the Inflation Reduction Act for the battery storage.
When you sell the power back, right? Could you sell it back at night at a higher rate than it would?
I know, but because you already have so much solar and you already have a battery storage, the demand shift wasn't working.
And we're not open at night too.
Yeah. Well, that actually helps battery storage, but it's, but it didn't pencil. Any questions from anyone?
Questions? Robson?
Yes, sir.
So I'm assuming that the new HVAC units have better SEER ratings.
Yes.
What's the length now? What do they last now?
I mean, the units we are replacing are probably definitely 15, over 15 years, but probably some of them are 25 years old. I would say the life of units, the SEER rating has gone up definitely. Instead of like 10 and 11, it's 14 and 13, 14 SEER, so much higher efficiency. But I don't think the life has changed. Life is still 15 to 20 years. I mean, in a jail, it won't be any more than 15 years because it's 24-hour operation in an office building, with good maintenance, yeah, you can stretch it to 20, 25 years. But that's where most of the units we are replacing are.
Any other questions?
Just quick comments, Chair. I just want to say it's great to see you, sir, and welcome back to Kings County. Our county has enjoyed a good, long relationship with you and the people you've always represented. Very positive experience. So very happy to see you this morning.
Thank you.
Thanks, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Appreciate your PowerPoint and look forward to doing business with you. And you'll be back on the 30th? Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, at this point, we'll go to board member comments. Department heads.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Last week, first five held their meeting on April 2nd. The board reviewed the California annual report as well as for the 22-23 fiscal year. Also discussed and supported the child passenger safety technician training program. Supported the universal pre-K survey for incoming students. Dr. Teskey agreed to be the chair-elect. I think he missed the meeting, but regardless, he will be the chair-elect for 24-25. The first five association dues were approved as presented. And then the spotlight of service was on the Kings County Office of Ed program, mainly the Hanford and Lemoore Family Connection Centers. And so it's a very nice program. On Wednesday, April 3rd, had the privilege and honor of attending the National Public Health Week department event and acknowledge the staff recognition, history, trivia, team bingo, and a wonderful lunch. So thank you. Then moving on to Lemoore High and announced a softball game. Tigers won, but unfortunately they were playing the Edison Tigers, and the Edison Tigers are the ones that won, not the Lemoore Tigers. But irregardless, there was a game. The Kings Waste and Recycling Authority had a special meeting on April 4th to discuss water monitoring projects around the landfill. As Mr. Henry pointed out, water monitoring underneath the landfills is becoming a big thing. The wells underneath the landfill are 220 foot deep, and some of them during the drought had some declining water in them. The water has now recovered about 5 feet from the storm activities of last year to this year, March 24. So we're going to go back in and reinstall a couple of pumps and try to the pump and treat program again. And discussion on 3 to 5 year plans we're going to be pushed forward. The Lemoore High School Educational Foundation sports, spring brunch was held on Saturday. Very well attended, a lot of good food, opportunity drawings, and a lot of people. And then that evening, the Lemoore FFA booster dinner took place at the Stratford Hall, a little over 300 people. Food, desserts, again, silent live auctions. And I'm glad it cooled off early because then everybody made it easier for them to go home. And then the Stratford, the Portuguese Fraternal Society of America that provides financial services to members and organizations made the official visit to Kings County. Stratford, Lemoore, Hanford, Hardwick, there's not too many people left, and Riverdale were present. Another nice brunch at the Fraternal Hall. The organization was founded in 2010 when several of the Portuguese groups merged to create this large nonprofit organization, and continues to perform well in many areas. So with that, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Supervisor Fagundes.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yesterday I attended the meeting. They had the employees recognition for the barbecue on the 7th. And there's so much going on here that people don't realize what it takes to do something like this and put it together. All the departments that were there, I think there was 8, and they've all participated. I mean, 100%. And I encourage anybody that has any more time that they can help serve or get donations or give stuff for their auctions or whatever. I encourage them to do that, because these 9 or 10 people who were there yesterday that are really enthused about this and want to make it better every year. So thank you.
Thank you.
May 7th. Make sure you write that down on your calendar. We need everybody.
Nothing at this time, Mr. Chairman.
Supervisor Robinson.
Yeah, let's see. Last Thursday, I attended the KWRA, the Kings Waste and Recycling Authority meeting for Supervisor Fagundes with Supervisor Neves. As Supervisor Neves stated, we discussed well mitigation and pumps. Also met with Valley Voices and 15 Armona residents to discuss several things about Armona, including the park, street lights, sidewalks, street safety, floods, and the water rates. And then also met on Friday, Supervisor Laboon and staff in regards to water and another issue.
Thank you. Okay, at this point, we'll go to board correspondence from Security Martinez.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. For board correspondence, your board received 3 notices, one from Kings County Department of Public Health dated April 5th on the issue alert for Prop 65 hazardous materials release report. You also received a letter dated March 25th from West Hills College, notice regarding new college names. And lastly, correspondence from Kings County Finance Director dated April 3rd on the March 2024 monthly Kings County Investment Pool Transaction Activity Report. For upcoming events, Kings County Behavioral Health will host their Veteran Support Group tonight from 5:30 to 7:30 at the Veterans Hall, Memorial Hall here in Hanford. Kings County Library will host on Saturday their poetry open mic to celebrate National Poetry Month from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. at the Hanford Branch Library. Kings County Behavioral Health will host their Family Member Support Group April 16th from 5:30 to 7:30 here on campus. And the Kings County District Attorney's Office Victim Witness Assistance Program will host their annual quilt unveiling for National Crimes Victims' Right Weeks, April 23rd from 6 to 7:30 p.m. at the Veterans Memorial Hall in Hanford. And lastly, we will have an employee blood drive on May 2nd on the parking lot closest to the sheriff's office across the Grand Jury parking lot. This event is open to the public, but is also open to the employees. For upcoming agenda items, the following agenda items are for April 16th. We do anticipate a large agenda. Administration has 4 items: appointments to Calviva Authority Commission, appointment to Kings County Ag Advisory Committee, Mid Kings River Groundwater Sustainability Agency Special Benefit Assessment and Extraction Fee Proposal, a study session on the State Office of Public Defender's Report on Indigent Defense in Kings County. And Ag has 1 item on some agreements. Behavioral Health has 4 items on advanced step hires and an agreement with a Central Valley Suicide Prevention Hotline. Child Support has an advanced step hire. Health has a Calviva agreement. Human Services has an agreement for Kings Partnership for Prevention for Child Abuse Prevention. Probation has an agreement with the Superior Court for some pretrial service funding. Public Work has 3 items. 1 is the Stratford Levee Project, the Burris Park and Hickey Park Playground Shade Project, and Disaster Removal Debris RFP Award Agreement. And lastly, the sheriff has 2 items, the purchase of some night vision goggles and some firearm purchases. And that concludes my report. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much.
Question, Mr. Chairman, or rather comment for our CEO. Just my personal request would be that until negotiations are settled with fire and DSA, that we always have closed session on our agenda to get an update on where we're at. Even if there is no update, I would want to come in and be told that there is no update. I know I'm only one, but that would be my concern, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. At this time, we'll adjourn, and our next meeting will be April 16th at 9 a.m. Also, I'd like to thank the fire union for coming out today and voicing their concerns. And I also want to recognize or thank Vicky Cervantes and welcome you to our county. Thank you.
Welcome.
And we'll be back here at,
We have 5 minutes.
we have a Cal PFA coming up. Also, we'll be back here at 2 o'clock.
At 11 too.